What's up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about 5 things that I see added in patch 6.2. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is next Saturday on June 6th at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, Lore, who's one of the community managers, is going to be doing like a live Q&A session with, I'm going to get his name wrong, but I'm going to try, Ion Hazakostas, who's also known as Watcher, and from what I've gathered from Wikipedia, he is one of the lead game designers, and also I think he focuses mostly on Dungeons and Raids. And so they're going to be doing this live Q&A session. I'm excited, right, because I'm making a video. I hope you guys are too. Now, there's a number of reasons why I'm excited and a number of reasons why I'm making this video. For one, like, guys, people have been complaining a lot about, like, they feel like their feedback isn't being heard. They feel like there's no communication. Well, this is some communication. And, like, before, like, we get the, the naysayers coming in there and saying that, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of bullshit. It's just going to be pre-screened questions that are going to, to where they just, patting themselves on the back. Of course that could happen, right? But let's plan that it's not going to. And even if it is, like, you should still ask the questions because they're probably going to have to read some of them. And so they'll be thinking about it even if they don't read out the questions on the live Q&A. And so I don't really want to get overly negative about something that hasn't even happened yet. And so before we really get into the top 5, I guess, and you guys know how I feel about top 5s, but this is kind of a special circumstance, I guess. And so I'm going to make an exception. And I do want to say one thing. Okay, so if you ask a question and you come off like a dick, if you're hostile, you're accusatory, one of those other words, like really, like negative tone, etc. So there's 2 things that can happen, and neither one of them is going to be good for you, right? So for one, they're not going to read the question. That's probably what's going to happen, right? 99% chance not going to read the question. The other thing is they read your question, and by reading the question out, everybody who's watching, they're watching the stream, because probably on Twitch, they're watching the stream. 1,000 people are watching the stream, and they read out the question. You sound like a dick, right? And then, like, because you sound like your dick, like your idea sounds like a bad idea, okay? And so people aren't going to like your idea because it came from an asshole, right? And so I think that that's something that you guys really should watch out for. So what I'm really trying to say here is make sure that you word your questions at least in a neutral tone. So again, like, you get your questions heard, maybe. Or also, you don't end up looking like an idiot in front of everybody else, and a valid concern that you could have had because you presented it in a negative fashion now looks bad. Okay, so that's not something you want to have happen. Now, another thing is, people have like talked a lot about Watcher Ion Hazakostas, and they've been very upset with him because he's the guy who did the Polygon interview about no flying, and so he's like the guy that people know. Is like Ghostcrawler was the guy that people knew back in the day. And so it's like anything that would go wrong, fucking Ghostcrawler, right? And so now, anything that go wrong, fucking Watcher, right? And so what I really want to tell you guys is that there's a lot of people who do World of Warcraft design, and a lead designer, it's not like he's the only lead designer. There's a bunch of other lead designers, okay? And, I know that we're all looking for a witch to burn, but really, I just don't think he's the right one. And I don't really think that there's any 1 or 2 witches to burn. There's probably a lot of different things, problems that are wrong, and it's just a lot more complicated than that. So it's not just this one guy's fault that the game sucks, okay? That you maybe, and that's like, a lot of people don't think the game sucks, right? But if you think the game sucks, it's probably not because of just this one guy. And anyway, I know that, it's hard to kind of like separate the 2, whatever, but I do want to try and say that just so, you guys know, I tried. So now let's talk about my 5 things I would like to see added. Now they're all going to be kind of interrelated, at least like some of them are going to be interrelated, all around the theme, the idea, the hope, the main like focus is going to be getting players to play with each other. Like, how crazy would that be in an MMO? Wouldn't that be ridiculous? So the first one that I got is in a guild group. You guys know, like, if you do a guild group dungeon, you get like a certain amount of gold in your guild bank. You get those guild challenges done. You do a guild group raid, you get like a lot of other gold in your guild bank. And so there are already incentives in place to where if you were in a guild group, like with, I think it's like 8 of 10 people, or probably like 15 of 20 people in a mythic raid, something like that. If you have those incentives in place, if you are in a guild group, those incentives are already in place. And so what I'd really like to see them do is expand those incentives and give players more loot whenever they actually kill a boss in a guild group. And so like maybe 30%, 50% more loot, a lot more, like a really big number. And the reason for that is to incentivize people playing with each other. I think that that's really kind of what the game has lacked. In the pursuit of streamlining and making the game more accessible, one thing that they've kind of streamlined out of the process is, in a lot of ways, interacting with other players. And one thing that I'm really glad about is that Blizzard has acknowledged that in a couple of interviews, and so I do hope that, oh, this is obviously something that they are aware of, and so it's not like, we're telling them something that they don't agree with. They agree with, and they are aware of this, and so this would be one thing that I would really like to see happen. And so I'm going to tell you guys like kind of some of the reasons that I think that. Now, one, there's really no reason to have a guild unless you're doing like maybe even Heroic Blackhand, you can pug it. And so unless you're doing Mythic, there's no real reason to have a guild, because if you have a guild, you have to raid on a certain time usually. And also on top of that, it's just trouble, like extra work that you have to do. And like compared to just going into the group finder, the pre-made group finder, and clicking the boss that you want, joining the group exactly on the boss, and probably killing the boss, and then you're done with it, you get the exact item that you want, and you're not actually like compelled to stay in that group or anything like that. There's a lot of, I guess, like advantages to that, and because there's no real advantages to having a guild aside from like the social aspect and maybe like a better looting system if you like that. Like a lot of players don't really have guilds, and they don't really make those strong social connections maybe a lot of us made back in vanilla Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King. And so I'd really like to see that guild group bonus give an incentive to give people more loot, or maybe like, I don't know, like more personal loot, more loot drops, everything. And so incentivizing like those lower tier guilds, like people who are just like friends, groups of friends, and they want to get together and get better at the game, and so they can get together in a guild group and progress through a normal mode, progress through heroic, and maybe get to mythic, maybe get to heroic, something like that. But in the process, there's an incentive for them to actually get together and do that, because guys, I mean, like, let's be real. I mean, how many videos like the South Park episode, everything, like all the WoW players sitting in their basement, no friends, etc. And it's like, of course, like, I mean, I got friends, you guys probably do too. But I think that also at the same time, a lot of people are very introverted who play online video games in general. And so you need to give people a little bit of a nudge to make friends with each other. And so I think that having a little bit extra loot would be that little bit of extra nudge. And so that's like probably one of the main things I would like to see. Now, the next thing is, like you guys, I just did a video yesterday about Apexis crystals, and I'm actually very happy with the changes that are being made to Apexis crystals, and so I'm very, I guess, like hopeful, and what's the other word that's kind of similar to that? Oh, I don't remember it. I do this all the time in videos, right? I'm glad about the Apexis crystal changes, but what I'd really like to see is a new secondary currency that drops only from normal mode and higher, again, to facilitate playing with your friends. You see, there's a trend here, and that only drops normal mode or higher, and you use it to buy like 715, 720 gear, and for you guys, like, I guess, like for a way to like kind of tell, like 720 is like low level mythic gear, and I think like 715 is like high to mid level heroic gear. And so buy some good gear. And so like in Wrath of the Lich King, at the beginning of Wrath of the Lich King, you had two types of badges. You had badges of heroism and badges of valor, I think, right? And badges of heroism, those bought like the nub perps, right? So like item level 200 nub perps, right? And then so those are like pretty much the Apexis crystals. And you had the badges of valor, right? And those buy the the good perps, like 213, Nax 25 level gear. And so what I really like to see is for them to add in some some good perps with some rewards, or not really rewards, but currency that you can buy, and have those be rewards. And so maybe add those into Mythic Dungeons as well, and maybe have like the guild thing that I said before, give you more of those badges, or I don't know, seals, something like that. And basically you just like, I don't know, like 20 or 50 of the seals, you put them together and you can buy something from a vendor, and it's all like 720, 715 gear. I think that would be really cool, and also it would give people like another option besides like, like the boxes that we're going to be getting for Hellfire Citadel. I mean, like, yeah, of course, we're going to be able to get those from the missions, naval missions, but you can't really control what you're going to get. And so if you had a little bit more control, and you could always be like working towards something, you know what I mean? And so like if you had like your badges, and you're saving up your badges, and hey man, even next week if I don't get whatever it is, I can still save up my badges and buy this. And in Burning Crusade they had this too. Like the badge gear that was added on Isle of Qualdanis, I think the item level was 141, which is the same item level as a Black Temple loot all the way up to, I think it was Mother Shiraz, but it could have also been Illidari Council because I know Illidan dropped 146 gear. And so it was like pretty much Black Temple level gear that you could buy with these badges, and it was expensive. It took a really long time to get this stuff, but at the same time, it was always something you could be working towards, going towards, and so you always have like that carrot in the distance. And you know, on top of the Apexis crystals, this would be like Apexis crystals for raiders, basically. And so I'd really like to see that happening. And also something that's kind of like very correlated to that is I'd also really like to see Apexis crystals be rewards from killing bosses in heroic dungeons. And so maybe if you get 500 Apexis crystals per boss that you kill or per dungeon that you complete, I think like per boss you kill would be a little bit better, but you know, I just kind of want more Apexis crystals. But also maybe also from mythic dungeons. So like let's say you complete like a mythic dungeon and there's like a fucking badass treasure chest at the end of it, and it's got like those Apexis crystals sticking out of it, like that the Garrison Monument, and you click on it, it gives you like 3,000 Apexis crystals. That would be awesome, right? And so it'd be an incentive for people, again, to go back and do these dungeons, and it would create the incentives. And again, like maybe if they introduce that secondary currency like I talked about, maybe they could have those be like the rewards from the mythic dungeons. Maybe you get one of them at the end of a heroic dungeon, like all that kind of stuff. Again, like just it's real simple, guys. And like I want to say something too, is that these are not like, I'm not trying to do like, these are not like my pet problems, you know, like how I said that I don't like you know, I think like the legendary ring is like kind of an issue because it takes a really long time and it becomes more of a requirement than a reward to raiding. Like I think we talked about that before, and a number of other like my little pet problems, but I'm not really going to be talking about those. These are like kind of like, in my opinion, small things that I think that they could do that could go a really, really long way. And they've been doing a lot of those in patch 6.2, and so this is like kind of my questions and feedback and I guess like suggestions of things that I would like to see you know, kind of take a few more of those steps. And so yeah, I mean like Apexis crystals is rewards for those things, or maybe like as I said before, the secondary currency that would buy better gear. Now this next fourth thing, I've talked about this for a while and I'm going to talk about it again, which is a larger friends list. Now again, like see how all this stuff relates and kind of has to do with, you know, making friends and getting together. I think that that's the main thing, you know, like that's what it's all about. And so what would be really cool is if, I mean, like I would even be okay with this. I was going to talk to one of my buddies, he also makes YouTube videos about this, like with microtransactions. I would even pay like $5. Okay, so Blizzard, listen, you want money? You don't want to have to make another mount, make people pissed off again? Do this. Like, just sell me 100 extra slots on my character list. I will pay like $30 for that, okay? Like, I think a lot of people would. Like, cross-realm rating is such a big deal now, and this is like, it's like not like you have to have everybody on your friends list. It's not like you can have everybody in your guild. You know, since cross-realm rating is such a thing, you know, it'd be really good for people to kind of be able to have that larger friends list, especially like if you're a raid leader. Like, I think that's one real problem is that like back in the day, you'd like kind of know like, okay, this one guy, like there's this one Death Knight that I play with, Reinhardt. I think he actually makes YouTube videos. And like Reinhardt and his friend Avernus, man, like every week, every like Friday or Saturday, like we would join Reinhardt's GDKP ICC run. And like the way he kept track of us obviously was, you know, through friends lists and stuff like that. And like he'd remember like, okay, this guy did really well last week, you know, I'm going to bring him, and he's got his friend who wants to come. And so it allows people to kind of like interact with each other. And like, look, I remember that. How long ago was that? 10 years ago. No, not 10. Not yet. 5 years ago. 5 years ago. And so I think that would be really, really cool. And I'd be happy about it. And I would actually even pay for a larger friends list. But I don't really think that we could have to do that because it's probably not really that hard to do. And, you know, as I said, cross-realm rating is such a big deal now. And, you know, it's hard to kind of like keep track of all your friends and make friends and kind of like develop those friendships whenever you've only got 100 slots. And those fill up pretty fast if you're rating a lot. Now, number 5, and the last one, you guys thought I forgot about PvP. I didn't. I remembered, and I've pitched this idea a lot. And in the video here behind me, I'm gonna have like kind of some screenshots and show you guys kind of like I guess like one of the probably the most fun times for me in World of Warcraft was right the patch right before Mists of Pandaria, right? Well, the pre-patch for Mists of Pandaria, they introduced cross-realm zones, and I fucking love cross-realm zones. Like you go into like there'd just be like a tree somewhere, right? In like Red Ridge, okay? There'd be like 5 skeletons around that tree because people are having PvP around this random tree. Like you go to what is it? The Dark Portal is like it's not the Blasted Lands. It's just like a bunch of skeletons. You guys know how in Hellfire Peninsula they've got that the Path of Glory where it's all the Draenei skeletons. Well, like imagine that, but it's just the Blasted Lands. It's all the Path of Glory. There's just skeletons everywhere, and I had so much fun. Like every single day, we'd all log on and go to different zones in the world and just do this world PvP. And so here's what I think would be really cool is if they did a thing where it was like Call to Arms, you guys remember that, and each day or each week or probably like every few days, there's like a certain zone, and so like you go to that zone and like every 100 HKs or like make some sort of like very easy to kind of create like objectives to capture or something like that. Sorry, I was having some steak fingers earlier. I'm having it again right now. Okay, so anyway, you kill like let's say 100 people, all right, 100 HKs, and you get like a certain amount of conquest or something like that, or maybe even some like kind of cool little title, like semi-permanent title, something like that. And I think that'd be really cool to kind of get PvPers interested, and also give people an alternate way of creating and getting conquest points that isn't really rated PvP. A lot of people like get like they get the jitters about arena, right? They get scared, and like RPGs, it's hard to really coordinate an RPG. People get kicked out because they're not 2K rated to do a 1500 RPG. I think we all know how that goes. Not really helping people out a whole lot. So like, how cool would it be? Is like you go to let's say Red Ridge Mountain. No, is that Alliance Zone? No, but there's not really Horde. Winter Spring. Nobody goes there. Nobody goes to Winter Spring or Furlass. With the Furbolgs, little the bear people, and like it's just some PvP zones and there's PvP going on in there. Kind of like bring the world to life. And like I guess like if you're level 43 in Furlass, you just started the game a few days ago. Like what the fuck is this? But I think it would be pretty cool. I really do. And so I'd really like to see some sort of like outdoor world PvP instead of like instead of like a battleground be like the Call to Arms, have it be like a zone in the game. Like that would be awesome with like different rewards like HKs and stuff like that. Kind of like almost like the Apexis Crystal, fill up the bar, but you're filling up the bar with the skulls and the broken spirits of your enemies. That'd be awesome, right? And maybe even have some gear and etc. Some rewards to go on with it. I don't really think that'd be that hard to do, and I think it would kind of breathe, I guess, a little bit of new light into at least a lot of the casual PvP. What was it? Be like not atmosphere, community, casual PvP community. I think a lot of people would have it, would think it would be fun. I personally would a lot. And so those are my 5 questions, suggestions that I'm going to turn into questions for the live Q&A, which is again on June 6th, next Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And so I hope that you guys kind of like my ideas, and I'm actually really curious to hear what your ideas are. And so comment, let me know what you guys think. Let me know like what kind of ideas do you have. And again, like it's not like, I want to say one thing, it's not one person's fault that like you might not like how the game is right now. There are a lot of people who are involved, and so don't blame one person. But try and make some good questions, and so you can have. Don't worry about like where we are. Just try and get to where we're trying to be. Okay. I mean, I probably said that real stupidly, but I think that you guys see where I'm coming from. So anyway, that's pretty much all I got. Those are my 5 suggestions. I'm eager to hear your suggestions as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.